Good afternoon. I am so pleased to be here with you today. I am Rochelle Davis, a President and CEO of Healthy Schools Campaign. Welcome to Change for Good, the third in our series of national forums highlighting Healthy Schools Campaign's ambitious call to integrate health and equity into our nation's policy and practice. Healthy Schools Campaign is dedicated to making schools healthier places to learn and work so all students can learn and thrive. And today we are focused on one of the most essential pillars of that work, school food. Before I dig deeper into the policy debate that is heating up over school food, I want to share what we have planned for today and introduce our amazing panel. Audrey Rowe, who is an Healthy Schools Campaign board member and served as an administrator for food and nutrition services at the USDA during the Obama administration, is with us today. She will explain why this is the time for us to focus on improving school food and introduce the Cooking Up Change Showcase. Christy Vilsack, the former First Lady of Iowa and the former honorary co-chair of Cooking Up Change national competition and someone who has worked tirelessly to increase food access for children, is also here today. She will tell us about the delicious and healthy school meal she created with a student recipe from our showcase and talk about the importance of having students front and center in the conversation about school food. And last, but certainly not least, Shelby Johnson, a high school chef from Los Angeles, will share her Cooking Up Change Showcase recipe for a delicious, healthy school meal and tell us why students must be part of the national debate about improving school food. Thank you all for joining us today. Before I turn over to my co-panelists, let me say a bit about the importance of school food. For almost 20 years, Healthy Schools Campaign has worked with partners on improving school food at the local and national levels. We see healthy school meals as a key to supporting student health and success, and research backs that up. School meals are also a key tool in our arsenal to fight hunger. Many students from under-resourced communities get the majority of their daily meals at school. And during our nearly 2 decades of work, we have made great progress and have much to celebrate. We saw a laser focus on improving school food during the Obama administration, but we've had challenges as well. Rolling back nutritional standards and reducing universal access to healthy school meals was a big priority for the USDA under Trump. COVID brought the nation's attention to school food, and the need for more access was a rallying cry. We applauded the quick changes that were made to allow children to receive meals at no cost. But in order to be responsive to the different delivery methods, supply chain challenges, and labor shortages, some of those changes also relaxed nutrition standards. Now, school food is on the national agenda again, and we see an important opportunity under the Biden administration to double down on improving the nutritional requirements for school food, equipping schools so they can cook and serve healthy meals, encouraging locally grown food, and increasing access to free meals for millions of students. The Senate will soon take up the Building Back Better legislation, which would allow 9 million more students to receive free meals without going through a cumbersome bureaucratic process, bring $500 million to districts in school kitchen equipment grants, and provide $634 million for a healthy school meal incentive demonstration project. In addition to that, early next year, the reauthorization of the Child Nutrition Act, which funds the entire federal school meal program, will pick up steam. We need to ensure that the Update Child Nutrition Act firmly cements and builds on the progress that was made in improving nutritional standard and expands the reach of the school meal program. So there is a lot at stake, especially for schools serving BIPOC students. The Biden administration has made great strides in addressing childhood poverty, and the passage of the Build Back Better, paired with a strong child nutrition reauthorization, will directly address childhood poverty as well as the health and long-term success of America's school children. It must be a priority for this country. I want to take a moment to thank our supporters who have made this Change for Good Forum and our Cooking Up Showcase possible. First, thank you to our Change for Good sponsors, especially presenting sponsor Advocate Children's Hospital and gold sponsors GCM Grosvenor and Northern Trust. And next, thank you to our Cooking Up Change Showcase sponsors, especially our champion sponsor Airmark. Next, I want to thank and acknowledge the partners that helped us recruit talented student chefs to contribute recipes to our Cooking Up Showcase and spread the word about this important event. These dynamic organizations are deeply committed to improving school food. And finally, I want to thank the Healthy Schools Campaign Board and all of our philanthropic, corporate, and individual donors, including our wonderful friends of HSC. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Audrey Rowe, a Healthy Schools Campaign board member and former administrator of Food and Nutrition Services at the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Rochelle. I am so pleased to be here today. I have the privilege of introducing the Cooking Up Change Showcase to all of you. But before I do that, I want to follow up on some things that Rochelle talked about. In addition to Build Better Back legislation, which is moving now, and next year Congress will take up the reauthorization of the Child Nutrition Act. In my role at USDA and as a long-term advocate for children, I know how important a strong CNR will be for the future of school food. I also know that when our national school meals program increases its nutritional standards, the broader food industry levels up as well. The standards we set for school food helps elevate the standards of our food system more globally. We all need to add our voices to the conversation about why funding nutritious school meals and access is so important. We need a Child Nutrition Act that does the following: protects and strengthens evidence-based nutrition standards for all food that is available in schools, increases universal access to school food, provides technical assistance, and mandates, very important, public reporting on progress to support schools in meeting the evidence-based standards. Strengthens, expands, and protects access to comprehensive and culturally appropriate child nutrition programs, and supports and strengthens programs and policies that help schools be successful in providing nutritious school food. We have long known that healthy school food is an important part of children's growth and development. We also know that any healthy school meal program, to be successful, received by students' voices must be a part of the conversation. For the last 15 years, Healthy Schools Campaign has hosted Cooking Up Change, a healthy cooking contest that celebrates students' designed school meals and elevates students' voices to the national conversation about healthy school food. Cooking Up Change started in Chicago, and it spread to cities across the country and then went national. I've been involved with Cooking Up Change for years. I've been a judge of the Healthy Cooking Contest. I have celebrated with students who successfully won some of the efforts that they had undertaken. And I've also hugged those who were so enthusiastic and cheered students on that they did not receive national recognition at the final event. But those students also, we heard their voices and we talked about the priorities for healthy school food. While we may not be able to host Cooking Up Change events in person during the pandemic, that's not stopped us. We've cheered on students virtually and marveled at what they accomplished even when schools were closed. Now the Healthy Schools campaign has launched the Cooking Up Change Showcase, which challenges high school chefs from around the country to submit their recipes for a healthy and delicious school meal and presents a curated collection of recipes from 15 years of cooking up change. You do not want to miss this incredible resource. On the showcase, which we've shared a link to the comments, you'll find a wide variety of delicious and nutritious recipes, photos of the amazing student chefs, and videos telling the story of how these talented chefs met the challenge that school food service workers faced every day. And not to be left out, I got a sneak peek at the showcase recipes, and I look forward to making my own version of the beef sliders with peach jerk salsa, which Shelby, I'm sure, will talk about later on, with my grandchildren, and it'll be a wonderful event for them. Later in the program, you will hear directly from one of the talented student chefs and what an impact these chefs have had. Before I hand things back to Rochelle, we want to take a quick poll of our audience. What is your top priority for our National School Meals Program? 4 areas: nutritious school meals, locally grown food, culturally responsive menus, and universal school meals across, free school meals across district-wide. And while we're waiting for the results, feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat, as we will have time later on to address these challenges. So I'm going to take a few minutes. Please vote. We need everyone's vote. We need to know what you think will be or should be the priorities in Child School Meals Program. I just found out I can't vote. So all of you have to vote. All right, the results. Well, not surprisingly, number 1, nutritious school meals. Secondly, universal free school meals. Thirdly, locally grown food. And finally, culturally responsive menus. All critical components of a child nutrition reauthorization and child nutrition school meals program. So thank you very, very much. And I will now turn it back to Rochelle.
Well, thank you so much, Audrey. And of course, our goal will be to achieve all 4 of those things and many more for our school food programs across the country. And I want to, again, thank you, Audrey, not just for participating today, but for all of the work you've done and for the wisdom and perspective that you bring to all of this work. And like Audrey said, if you have any questions for her or for any of our panelists, please share them in the chat. We will have time to answer them. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Christy Vilsack. As I said before, Christy is a longtime friend and supporter of Healthy Schools campaign. She served as honorary national co-chair for our Cooking Up Change Healthy Cooking Contest for many years, and she is wife of the USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack. She has devoted her career to supporting children and contributed a great deal when she was the First Lady of Iowa. Welcome, Christy.
Thanks so much, Rochelle. It's wonderful to be here with all of you today. As Rochelle and Audrey both said, with the Build Back Better legislation in the upcoming Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act, there are a lot of opportunities to strengthen the school meal program and increase access to school meals. I've worked in the US and also internationally on issues of child poverty, and I can say that the school meal program is essential in supporting the health and long-term success of all children. Over 48 million students attend public schools across our country. And like was said before, school meals are a major part of many students' daily food intake. Like Rochelle said, I've been a proud member of the Cooking Up Change family for many years, and I was thrilled to attend the cooking competitions and taste the delicious meals these talented student chefs created. I also know that the ideas and feedback that students bring to this competition have had a positive influence on school meal programs across the country. For example, in Chicago, winning recipes from Cooking Up Change make frequent and popular appearances on the menus of hundreds of thousands of children. When we hear resistance to raising the nutritional standards for school food, we always hear that students will refuse to eat healthier offerings. Student chefs in Cooking Up Change have repeatedly shown that students can and will eat healthier meals if they're delicious and if they're culturally relevant. Today, in addition to talking about school food policy, we're recognizing and applauding the talented chefs who contributed to the Cooking Up Change showcase. I recently tried my hand at preparing a student design meal from the showcase, and the results were delicious. One of the recipes we made was a menu of pasta and meatballs. You'll see from the photos that my grandchildren and their grandfather, USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack, joined in on the fun. If you want to make a recipe, you can browse and download recipes at the Cooking Up Change showcase. Now it's my pleasure to introduce one of the student chefs who's helping change what is on the menu for school meals. I'm happy to welcome Shelby Johnson, a Cooking Up Change showcase participant and a culinary student at the Los Angeles Center for Enriched Studies.
Thank you, Christy. Hello, everyone. My name is Shelby Johnson. I attend Lace's Culinary Management Program in Los Angeles, California. For my dish, I made a beef jerk slider with peach jerk salsa that can also be served with a whole grain wheat bun. And I'm sorry. And sauteed broccoli as my side dish. And for my fruit dish, I made a peanut butter banana roll up. Some of the challenges that I faced during this were following directions. I will be honest, following directions is not my strong point. And I really, really liked the fact that it gave me something that I really had to think about, something that I wanted to do and something that I know others would be willing to try. And I feel like my partner, Brianna, would say the exact same thing. Brianna, she made a creamy Cajun chicken pasta, and it was really good when we tried it together. It was really good. And I just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to showcase my talent, my ideas, and my passion for cooking. But I have one more question for all the adults in the room. What's one throwback dish that you would like to see updated by student chefs like me? So put it down in the chat, and it could be inspiring for student chefs next year.
So Shelby,
that sounds good.
Shelby, I have a couple of questions for you.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit about the flavors and spices that you like to eat and your friends as well, and how you have incorporated that into your meal.
Well, in my class, we're her first period at school, so we're kind of like the class that gets a feel of what everybody else would like in the whole school based on like periods. Like we go by period 1 through period 7. So we're kids that have had her before for many years, and we already know the way to go and what we want to do. So we get opinions from her and from us, giving feedback around the classroom. And in our classroom, it's very culturally diverse. So we have a lot of different flavors. We have a lot of different friends and kids from different backgrounds. And she likes to include that, and I love that she does that. It includes everybody's culture when we're in the kitchen.
Well, as someone who grew up in the Midwest with just salt and pepper as the only spices, your meal, obviously, just by looking at it, you can tell it's got a lot of interesting spices and flavors.
I chose that because jerk is my personal favorite food. Like jerk chicken is my personal favorite. And I just like Jamaican food, the pepperiness, the different levels of spice, the hit like the pepperiness, the sweet, the spicy, the savory, the citrusy flavors that you can get from jerk is my personal favorite to deal with.
Okay, and then when you looked at the other showcase recipes, what did you find inspiring and interesting, and what do you want to learn more about?
Well, the thing that I found interesting is that we all kind of did our own thing. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to do quesadillas and then another person does it. We all had our own idea and our own plan of what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, how we wanted it to taste, and how we just wanted it to be represented as our personal dish.
Is there anything you saw there that you might like to try that is absolutely new to you?
Well, it was the meatball, that one. I've never had like meat that before. I would like to try that. The broccoli and chicken meatball, that with the whole grain pasta, I want to try that.
Yeah, that's the one I made, so that was kind of fun. And why do you think it's important to include student voices in the conversation about healthy school food?
I feel like it's important to include students on the healthy food topic is because it gives them an opinion of what they want instead of just having it being sat in front of them. They get their own opinion, they get what they want, and not just, oh, you have to eat this because it's there. And it gives them the opportunity to try new things and also have their own input on it. And let's just say, like, my friends, when they were eating, like most of my friends, they don't like vegetables, and I completely understand. But after I made the sauteed broccoli, they were more so like, oh, I tried it and it was pretty good. When they see somebody that they're familiar with making something that they don't like, they might be, hey, I might just try it for a little bit. I might not like it. I might like it. And it just lets them feel like, hey, it wasn't that bad. I might like to try it again.
Great. Well, thanks, Shelby. You're an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, and thank you, Shelby, but don't go away yet. We're going to go into.
Oh no, I was just muting.
Okay, you're in the question and answer section, and you still have some stuff to do. But thank you again for participating and for your delicious contribution to the showcase. And I will be trying that at home, and I'm actually going to be trying one of your banana pita thing with my granddaughter. It seems simple enough that she can even help me. She's going to turn 2 next week, but I've got her started early on helping me with cooking.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, although it is hard to ever not eat it while we're cooking. That's our challenge right now. And again, thank you, Christy, for joining us and for getting your granddaughter and Tom involved. So we certainly appreciate this. He has a lot to say about what's going to happen with school food. So we're excited to see him involved. So we have received some questions and comments in chat. So I'm going to turn over to a couple of questions. And I guess the first question, and obviously none of us are directly involved in school food today, but we're all obviously closely following what has happened and the impact of the pandemic on school food. And, I think the important role that school food has played in feeding children has really been highlighted. But, like so many sectors, it's faced a lot of challenges, and those challenges aren't over. And, unlike most other restaurants or food delivery, we ask of our school food service directors to serve to nutrition standards, which is, again, not what's happening in a lot of places. And so just, how are you thinking about or seeing some of the biggest challenges facing school food service in serving healthy meals to students, given the disruption of COVID and the fact that we're still in it? Audrey, do you want to start with that?
I would. I've talked to some school food folk here in the West Virginia, where I am, as well as some folks nationally. And I think there are 2 or 3 things that I hear all the time. One, it is the availability of some of the product that they would want to serve, but they just can't get it from their producers, and companies are not producing or not having access to all the ingredients that they need to make things that the schools need. That was one. The second, what had to do with the fact that we never know from day to day what may be going on in a school with regard to an identification of a need to quarantine or to close the school. The planning and thinking through how you manage this, and can we ensure that healthy meals can go home with children. You find out, one school food person said to you, find out late in the afternoon that a child has been identified with COVID, and the school is going to quarantine particular classrooms and or part of the school. And we need to figure out how we're going to get meals to those children, because they will be gone at the end of the day, and that's challenging. So just managing within this environment. But I also hear very positive feedback that there is a desire to see the nutrition standards come back stronger within the child nutrition reauthorization. But at the same time, there's a resource issue and there's an availability issue, and that has to be addressed as you look at the implementation.
And Audrey, I just, in response to what you said, I think I've been in schools. I was a teacher in the classroom for over 30 years, I've been going to schools for over 50 years, and school lunch has been part of my everyday. But kudos to, and a round of applause to all the school lunch folks, the people who prepare it and serve it. Because of the lack of availability, they've really been stretched, but their imagination, their resiliency, their ability to adapt is really a testament to the whole profession, right, basically, of school food providers. But I think it also calls attention to the local food issue, because if we don't have providers who can bring things in, if the supply chain is interrupted, the idea that we've got a lot of producers very close to home who might be able to help, especially in those times when you have to adapt, that knowing who they are and where they are and how we get those products will be a challenge moving forward, but also a real opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And Shelby, any reflections do you have on that? I don't know how much you've talked to the food service folks in your school.
Well, in my school, like our lunch, it's not the best, to be honest. It's not the best. Most kids, like, they'll just take it, but most of them, they either get thrown out or they're just left on the tables. Mostly because, like, the food, it doesn't look appetizing, and most of the kids can't eat the food due to certain meats or due to, like, religion-wise or cultural. They can't have certain things, so they just can't have lunch that day. And, like, the next thing that they'll possibly have is, like, a ham and cheese sandwich, which they also can't have. There's not a lot of options for those who have certain restrictions.
So there's a whole cultural competency or cultural appropriateness of the food in your school.
Yes, and then basically, like, you eat with your eyes first, visual. So that's also another thing. If something doesn't look that appetizing, you're going to already have that feeling that it's not going to taste that good.
Shelby, I really enjoyed your presentation of the roll up, because when I did it, I stuck the whole banana in and rolled it up and gave it to a 2-year-old. But your presentation sort of fanned out with all the bananas sliced, sticking out a little bit and edging out, looking like lace. I thought, wow, that is appealing to the eyes. That would make me want to eat it much more than if somebody handed me that banana wrapped up like a 2-year-old. So.
And I think that the next question, actually, Shelby, really relates that is, what are the biggest influencers on student food choices, both good and bad, and how does that impact school food? I think, we hear a lot about the fact that students are very used to eating fast food or foods that are high in sodium and fat. And then when they get to the school food environment, they're less familiar with foods that have, you know, menus that have more fruits and vegetables or less sodium. You've just highlighted another problem where they may not be culturally familiar or appropriate. I'll start with you. What do you feel are the biggest influencers on student food choices, and what does that mean about it? What are the implications of that on school food?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, can you repeat the question? I thought that was for another person. I'm sorry.
Well, it's for everybody. Well, I can have, but the question is, what do you think are the biggest influences on student food choices?
On student food choices, most kids, like I am a kid, we don't make the best decisions when it comes to food because we just want something quick and easy that we can eat in like 30 minutes, that we can like enjoy, and then we have to go sit back in the classroom for 2 hours. So it's basically something that can be eaten quickly, something that's actually enjoyable in that amount of time, and then something that'll keep us filled, something that's not gonna just be burnt off in the next 10 minutes.
And Christy or Audrey?
Well, I was just thinking, and I'm just going to ask Shelby this question: how much of an influence is what you have available at home, and what kinds of foods families are able to purchase or purchasing. I know, again, I live here in West Virginia, and we just had a conversation yesterday with some folks. When you look at some of the shopping carts, the lack of green vegetables, or the abundance of sugary drinks or fast food, quick things to shove in. So I often wonder, what is the influence of the home environment on your willingness to accept different kinds of food and try different kinds of things?
Most kids at our school, like our school recently started doing this, like this coming semester, due to the pandemic, they serve like after school. It's like you get a bag and it's like filled with like milk, or a bag of milk, and then like a bag of juice, and then like fruits and vegetables, and like a frozen dinner or like snack type thing, like a frozen pizza thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then most kids are dependent on that because they can't necessarily eat what we had for lunch that day. And then breakfast is another thing because most kids are dependent on that as well. And since we can't eat in the classroom, we have to walk to the cafeteria, eat it there. But then it might be like a ham and cheese sandwich, or like most kids are lactose intolerant, they can't have cheese, so they just have to deal with like apple and milk. That's all they have to get.
All right. Well, Shelby, I'm going to have to keep putting you on the spot because most of our questions are coming in for you. So the next question is, do you have suggestions for ways to get other students interested in food and cooking?
I do. Most of my friends, like, because I'm doing another cooking program here at my school, and recently I just made a 3-tier red velvet cake, and everybody was like, "Where'd you get that?" I was like, "I just made it upstairs," and then they're like, "You made that?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I was walking around school just this huge cake because I couldn't leave it upstairs because I knew the 6th graders would have just destroyed it. So I was just walking around. I gave some to my math teacher, gave some to my English teacher, and they were like, "You guys make this upstairs." And more kids were like, "Oh, I'm gonna apply that from like, you can choose your electives. Like, I'm gonna do culinary for my elective."
Okay,
And then,
seems.
yeah, when they like the last week we made apple fritters and peanut brittle for Christmas, like the Christmas food, since we're about to go on break. And everybody's like, "Where'd you get donuts from?" I was like, "We just made these like just now," because they were so hot and they were like the icing was still melting off. So they were just like, they were amazed that we made it upstairs.
The next question was also for you. I think some of our audiences would like to know what kind of menus you would like to develop next, and what food do you want to try and make. So I think there's some interest in where you want to go with your culinary interests.
Wait, you mean like outside of school, or you mean like in school?
I think it was just a general question.
Well, most of my friends, I will be honest, most of my friends are picky eaters. So like whenever they come over, I'm like, "Do you want to try something?" Like I try to get them involved, like especially my culture, because my friend, for the first time, he came over like last weekend, and it was his first first time trying gumbo and the first time of his life, I have never seen him smile so big. And he was just like, he was so amazed like what it was that he had never had it before. Because he had told me that he didn't like shrimp, he didn't like crab. And when he had it, he likes it. Now he can't get enough of it. So it's basically introducing them to something that they're not used to. It gives them, oh, maybe it's not that bad. And then they'll start being able to try more things instead of being a picky eater, just choosing like when they go out to dinner, chicken tenders and French fries. There's more to a menu than just that. There's more varieties of pasta, varieties of salads, varieties of pizza, different varieties of chicken, and not just fried chicken tenders, baked chicken, braised chicken. There's different ways that you can have it.
Jerk chicken.
Yeah, jerk chicken.
And then Audrey, there was a question that was directed for you, but I think other people can also answer it, is what are some of the things all of us can do to support school meals and healthier school food?
Well, I think the first thing is that we all need to get involved and know what is being offered in the school meals program in the schools that our children or relatives and whoever attend. The second is we need to make sure that our members of Congress, both on the House and in the Senate, as we move the child nutrition reauthorization, I mean, they need to hear from all of us. They need to hear from not only school food authority personnel and people who are engaged in school food, but they need to hear about the grandmother who felt that the nutritious meals that her granddaughter was getting made a difference in her attitude and made it she wasn't as aggressive or because there was less sugar and lots of things. They need to hear those stories. We need to tell our story. And that's one thing we haven't done in a very effective manner. And I think having people like Shelby and Shelby's cohorts around the country being available for members when they come back to their districts to hear from them, all of those are extremely important. Writing op-ed pieces, but and talking to something as simple. And one of the things that I do all the time is I always talk to my grocery guy, the manager, and I'll say, I noticed that you have shifted back from having lots of fruits and vegetables up front. I'm seeing more sodas and juices and things. I mean, why are you shifting that back? That's not a way to expose and help families buy more nutritious food. So it's getting involved. We cannot sit back and say somebody else is going to do it for us. We have to be involved.
You're here. I'm a storyteller, so I think examples really help, and stories personalize it, so you're not just spouting off somebody else's talking points. But everybody's had experience with school lunch, everybody. So it's not something that people don't understand, but they may not have had experience with school lunch just recently. So being able to say at the dinner table or whenever you're gathering, to tell the story that I just heard from Shelby about some kids, some kids can't eat a ham sandwich because that's not part of their culture. It may be lactose intolerant. And so isn't it great that we now have opportunities in the school lunch programs to offer some other options for students so that there's a wider range, and we can really educate people in our everyday conversations, just like with the grocer. You don't have to make a big deal over it. You can just weave it into your conversations and share your own experiences, and without challenging people and making them upset, just help them understand that, for instance, no, your kid is, it's not that they're not getting enough to eat at school. Look, some kids are getting a bag to take home with them that's keeping them over the weekend, or it may be their evening meal, and you help people understand it without being confrontational. And I think right now that's really important.
All right. Well, thank you all so much I think this is a great question for us to end on. There were a few other questions that we didn't get to, so we will try to respond to folks. And so if there are additional questions from our audience, please don't hesitate to add them in. We will get back to you. I just want to, again, thank everyone. And if you are curious to know what recipes our attendees would like to see reimagined by student chefs, it looks like vegetarian enchiladas, tater tot casserole, chicken pot pies, tuna noodle casseroles, plant-based entrees that don't have a lot of cheese, tamales, veggie pizza, and jambalaya with chicken, all got multiple mentions. So we certainly have a number of things to challenge our student chefs with, to reimagine those within the limitations and opportunities that our school meal programs offer. So we will put that challenge to them. And again, I just want to thank you all for participating and give a big thanks to Audrey, Christy, and Shelby, and all the student chefs that participated in the Cooking Up Change showcase. A big thanks to our partners for this important work, and once again to our Change for Good sponsors. And in the spirit of our last question, I'd like to leave this event with some clear next steps to share with you. A reminder to visit the Cooking Up Change showcase and try some of the amazing recipes that these high school students have created. Tell your senators to support the Build Back Better legislation and all of Congress to support a strong Child Nutrition Act reauthorization when it comes up next year. Make sure you follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter to receive advocacy alerts and other important updates. Consider supporting Healthy Schools campaign in your year-end giving. The link to give is in the chat, and it is through donations from people like all of you that we're able to continue the important work of making schools healthier places for all students. So thank you again for joining us, and thanks again to all our speakers. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Please hang on for a few moments to enjoy images and videos from Cooking Up Change and our showcase as we say goodbye.
Another difficulty we faced was staying within the nutritional limits of the Cooking Up Change challenge. It forced us to be more creative with our ingredient decisions and make sure that we created a full and complete meal for students.
My dish is a creamy ham and cheese pasta inspired by my love for Alfredo. The hardest part was making it creamy using all low-fat ingredients. It was also challenging to meet all the requirements. Go to the website to see the recipes for my dishes.
My name is Elias Catania. Currently, I'm in 11th grade at Harriton High School in Lower Merion, Pennsylvania. I'm really excited to be a part of the Cooking Up Change showcase.
Thanks for fixing it, and appreciate the new menu. This is great.
I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will.
I'm sure I will. Bon appetit.